is Sarah. I am a high school teacher by day, and with the rest of my time, I am a little bit of a writer, a little bit of a podcaster, a little bit of an actress, all just for fun, all just my hobbies. I love creating things because I'm a big old pop culture dork, and there's few things that I love more than just to hang out and talk what movies are coming out, what we've been watching, what we've been playing. And that's the kind of vibe I want to create here. I'm not here to make big controversial, hot take in this essay I will kind of videos. Just a cozy time. If you disagree with any of my opinions, that's cool. I'm not sitting here with a big debate me sign. I'm just looking to chill out and talk about the things that I love. And maybe you'll like hanging out with me too. So we're going to start with something I do not entirely every day, but some of you might do, your Wordles, your connections, and I do those too. But my favourite daily game is called the Box Office Game. And it is inspired by my favourite podcast, Blank Check with Griffin and David. And every day they throw up a new opening weekend, and you've got to guess the films that were the top 5 at the box office. I'm not a magician at this game or anything, but I'm not too shabby at it. My greatest triumph was guessing the original animated Beauty and the Beast with no clues, and no one was there to witness it. But that was one of my proudest moments. So today we're just going to dive in. I haven't looked at this pre-hand. There's no funny business. There's no shenanigans going on here. We're just going to look through this together. So we've got the weekend, May 15th, 2009. Alright, so I am 21 years old. I feel like I will remember most of this, but we'll see. So my strategy here is I always, let's start with number 1. And I generally start with the tagline. Taglines in recent years are pretty helpful. Taglines in the 80s either give away the entire plot or are something like one man went on a journey and you just have no clue where to even start. But let's see, we've got a Sony picture in its first week of release, and this is saying it grossed 46 million. This was the only week it came out. This might be a weird one. The holiest event of our time, perfect for their return. Is this going to be a weird... What? What? Tom Hanks... Is it, I was thinking, is this a Da Vinci Code? It's a Da Vinci Code. Yeah, okay. But which one? Was Ewan McGregor in the Da Vinci Code? So, it's not going to be the first one. Is it gonna be Angels and Demons? Because that's the only other title that I know. Yeah! That only made $46 million. Wow, did they make more of those? Oh no, here we go, final gross, 133. Okay, that total, I got confused. That total was just what it has got to so far. I was gonna say, no, if it got to 133. I thought those movies made a fair bit, though not against its budget. What a weird time when these movies were coming out. Alright, number 2 at the box office, we got a Paramount picture in its second week. It's obviously opened. I'm guessing it opened at number 1. The Future Begins. Oh. Crispy. Yeah, okay. I shouldn't have second guessed myself. I saw Chris Pine. I was like, this is the new Star Trek. Zachary Quinto sealed it for me. Good movie. Controversial take. I don't think that's controversial. That was a big hit. No, I liked that movie a lot. Okay. Now, 2009, I'm pretty sure, is the year also Iron Man came out, but I think we're a couple of months away from that. Witness the Origin. 20th Century Fox. This is a Wolverine. Okay, wait, which one is this? I don't think it's the Wolverine. I think it's... Wait, which one? Because there was the 2... X-Men Origins. Wasn't it called X-Men Origins Wolverine? Yeah, it'll be that since Origin is in the tagline. Yeah. The bad one. The one that was not very good. And did not make a crap ton of money. The Wolverine is pretty good. We're really on the kind of cusp of something here, I feel like, in 2009. Obviously, we're right before the MCU breaks. Okay, number 4 at the box office. In its 3rd week, Warner Brothers film You Can't Always Run From Your Past. Oh, is this... Oh, fucking... What is it? Girlfriend's Past. What's the... Ghosts of Girlfriend's Past. Is that what it is? Yes. Look, I'm 4 from 4 at the moment. I gotta say. Long before the reconnaissance, we got this absolute disaster. Not that I've seen it. Maybe it's a secret masterpiece, though I have not heard anyone ever come in defense of this movie. Alright, at number 5 at the box office, we are 4 from 4 at this point. It's a Sony picture in its 4th week of release. The tagline is, Sharon and Derek have all they've ever wanted, but someone else wants it more. Oh, geez, this might... Idris Elba and Beyonce. Beyonce has not made a lot of movies. To her detriment. I think she's a wonderful actress. It's kind of strange she never went further down this road. Who else is in this movie? Ali Larter. 90s teen queen. Who directed this movie? This is going to be a movie that doesn't exist, and this is going to be my downfall. Crap. Alright, okay, let's reveal the last of the hints. Things couldn't be better for Derek Charles. He's just received a big promotion at work and has a wonderful marriage with his beautiful wife Sharon. However, into this idyllic world steps Lisa, temporary worker at Derek's office. This is a movie that doesn't exist, and this is going to ruin my streak. Damn it. I don't want to give up, but I have no clue what this movie is called. Obsessed. Yeah, it's a movie that doesn't exist. That movie doesn't exist. Interesting. Okay. Oh, dear. So that's the box office game for today. That was May 15th, 2009. And we're only... I'm pretty sure we're only a few months away from Iron Man changing everything. There is another daily movie game, Cinematrix, done by Vulture, that I don't play as much because I'm nowhere near as good at it. I just don't know quite enough, but we'll see. So here we got a Matrix, and down the left we got Robin Williams, John Goodman, Diane Keaton, and we need to come up with 9 films that cover these categories. Released between 1999, double letters in the title, 3+ words in the title, and not repeating any. And ideally, you get a better point score if other people haven't picked it too. So, gotta go beyond the obvious. Alright, so, for John Goodman, double letters in the title, I'm gonna go with a movie that's definitely been reclaimed by the internet, but I don't feel like it's might not be a super well-known guess. I'm gonna go with Speed Racer. 6%, that's good. Anything less than 20, I'm usually pretty happy. Less than 10, nailing it. So, I'm very, very happy with that. Now, for either 1990 or 19... I'm thinking the Flintstones in there somewhere. But I can't remember. I generally can't remember if he was in the sequel of Viva Rock Vegas. Because I'd put that in for 3 words in the title. But instead for John Goodman, 3 words in the title, I'm going to go with Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Oh. Because the O is just one O. Is that right? Yeah, there we go. That might be a popular pick, but we'll see. 29%. Yeah. Let's see what else we got. Alright, let's have a look at Diane Keaton. Now. 3 words in the title. My first instinct is to go First Wives Club. That feels like an obvious choice, though. I have in my brain, for between 1999, I know one of the very first Oscars that I watched, she was nominated, and I can't remember the name of that film, and I don't think it's a very well-known one. In my head, it's the movie Iris, and I don't know if that's right. So, you got no, there's no room for mistakes. There's no time for mistakes in this game. Robin Williams should be easy. For 3 words in the title, I'm gonna go with Jacob the Liar, because I feel like that's a relatively lesser known 1%. Look at that. Oh, look at me go. That's great. Oh, sick. Double letters in the title. Aladdin is too obvious. Flubber is the other one that is in my head. Oh, you know what? We're gonna go with Fern Gully. The Last Rainforest, because that has double L. 2%! Oh, hell yeah, I'm loving this. Alright. Now, between 1999 and 99, Robin Williams is kicking ass in this period of time. But what's one of his less, and most of them are like big hits. So what is one of his lesser known films in that time? Weirdly, Flubber is coming to mind a lot, or maybe Jack? Maybe Patch Adams? The ones that were less well regarded? Oh, which one of those is less people gonna pick? Flubber, Jack, or Patch Adams? I'm gonna go with Flubber. A movie I saw in the cinema because I was about 8 years old. 4%! Oh, excellent. Excellent. Now, John Goodman, here's where I'm going to put the Flintstones. That might... 26%. Obviously not going to put, the really big ones. Here we go. Diane Keaton. Double letters in the title. I've got Annie Hall in my head. That'll be our last resort. But I feel like that's going to be like an 85% people are going to say that. And I also don't want to put a Woody Allen film in there. Something's Gotta Give has double letters and also 3 words in the title. Okay. I mean, though, I've got 3 that fit. But what do we do? What do we do to game the system? Do we keep trying to think? This is making me realize how little I know of Diane Keaton's career, which is, poorly reflected on me. Let's just do it. Let's just go. Damn it, I'm gonna go Annie Hall. It's the most obvious one. But it's gonna be so high. 45. Ugh. But I feel like I got my 2s on my, look at this Robin Williams run I'm proud of. Between 1990 and 1999, let's put First Wives Club. This is also gonna be so high. It's gonna be so high. 35, and let's go with Something's Gotta Give. This is gonna be really high, probably. 23, yeah, okay. Top 31% of players today. I could have done better on that Diane Keaton thing. So the most popular answers. Okay, so I got all the most popular answers for Diane Keaton. Real proud of that Robin Williams run. Could have done better on that John Goodman run. But, I didn't have the most popular ones. Alright, so, what are the more obscure ones here? Always things that don't really exist. For sure. So, I'm really curious. Yeah, this is the thing. Most people got the Robin Williams ones, but not as obscure picks as I have. I'm going to be proud of that. I'm going to choose to be proud of that. And I got one in every box. I didn't make any mistakes. What I am going to do is check that movie, because that's going to bug me. See, no, that was Judi Dench. I knew that was an Oscar play, and I had that title in my brain. That's a Judi Dench Oscar play. So what's the movie? So what is the movie that I'm thinking of? Alright, so in 1996, Diane Keaton was nominated for Marvin's Room. I never would have guessed that. But I can see that clip. It was a very formative Oscars for me, because I taped it and I watched it over and over again. Oh, I think that was the very first Oscars that I ever watched. Alright, so my other movie game that I play, though it's not a daily thing, it's a year-long slog, at least for me, is my fantasy box office game. Started this last year with one of my best friends, and last year, that's what you can see here, started relatively strong. I had Dune Part 2 on my slate. I'm pretty sure I had Kung Fu Panda 4. But I did have Madame Web, which was a mistake. And as was Furiosa really let me down. That was probably wishful thinking on my behalf. I will say I ended up in the black. I ended up making $1.1 billion. Didn't end up in the red. And I take that as a win, even though I didn't actually win. So I was hoping to learn from my mistakes last year. We have drafted the first half of the year, which is not the first half, the first third of the year, which is about to end. And I have not started strong. As you can see by this graph. Oh, I'm so glad that corrected. I didn't think that was right, but damn, that was embarrassing if that had been the case. So my picks so far that have come up this year, Paddington in Peru, let me down a bit. I know they stuffed around that release, and I think could have done much better if it had come out right before Christmas. Nevertheless, let's move on. The Day the Earth Blew Up was really also probably wishful thinking on my part. I really wanted that to do well, but it basically did not get marketed, and another release that got really stuffed around. So that was a big disappointment. My only money maker this year was Presents with $5 million. Flight Risk was the bomb that my teammate put on my slate, which was a good call. I lost 18 million on that. And then Wolfman did not contribute towards my score because that was my alternate in case something did not get released. So I am $71 million in the hole. I have picked my hit for the year, which is the new Jurassic World. Most of those movies make a lot of money. They also do cost a fair amount. And as you can see, you've got to break even, get 2.5 times the budget. My friend has Avatar as her hit pick, which was a good call. My thinking was that budget will also be really big. I know those movies make a lot of money, so I did a bit of calculation. I don't know how that's all going to shake out. Though I will say we're doing our summer draft tomorrow, so I have had a look at the summer slate, and I don't know what to do. The look of the roster for the summer releases, it's a little bit of a bummer. There's nothing even I'm personally all that excited about, which is not a good sign, but also I just genuinely don't know what is going to make money. In years past, obviously a Marvel guaranteed hit. The last few have not done that so much. Does Thunderbolts look like it might trend up? Maybe, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. Same with Superman and Fantastic Four. They could be huge hits. They could be met with a big old shruggy. I actually think Superman is going to do pretty well, and even Fantastic Four is going to do pretty well. But Superman, I know, has had a big budget. James Gunn is denying how big it is, but so that's going to make a lot of money to make any of it back. So I'm thinking of maybe a strategy of low-budget movies that are guaranteed to make that money back, but I'm not going to make $1 billion on the back of that strategy. So I haven't 100% decided. Next episode I will share what I've locked in for my summer picks. Obviously it will depend a little bit on what my partner picks as well. We're doing our summer draft tomorrow, so we'll see. In other news that's been doing the rounds the last couple of weeks, obviously there's been a lot of Oscar talk in terms of our new categories, both stunt and casting, which is really exciting, and it'll be interesting to see who is the first people to get those awards. It's just, I feel like it'll be quite a historical event to see the very first inaugural winners of those films, particularly as they won't be honoured for a couple of years. So it is very possible that the films that will get those awards haven't even been made yet. So that's pretty exciting. The biggest breaking news over the last week, of course, has been now that Academy voters will have to watch everything, which has mostly been met with the reaction of, wait, they weren't already doing that? But then also the question, but wait, how do you enforce that? Hence why that hasn't always been a rule for you to watch everything. But apparently there's going to be a system, because when you're an Academy voter, you get sent a screener and it'll register whether or not you've watched it, which is an interesting way to do it. And then if you've seen it actually out at a screening in a cinema, I think you have to offer some kind of proof of that. So it's probably more of a encouragement rather than something they're going to really strictly enforce. It is bonkers that that wasn't always the case, that you could just vote for things you hadn't seen or not vote for things because you hadn't seen them. But it'll be interesting to see if anything about the vibe of the Oscars shifts in the next few years because of that change. Already I think we've seen a lot. I know they expanded the Academy a lot a few years ago, or at least that's my understanding, and I think we've definitely seen that shift. But I think that'll just continue to change, and I, for one, am really excited because I love the Oscars in all their glamorous silliness. So that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. And then, of course, the other news that has caught my eye is, one, apparently the director of the Eras Tour movie is going to be making a Bodyguard remake. No word on the star, but people have made assumptions. I think Taylor Swift might actually be a good pick for a Bodyguard remake, though I generally don't know if we've really seen what she can actually do as an actress yet. She obviously hasn't made such a splash. I mentioned earlier that Beyonce, I think, is an incredible actress. I don't know if we've fully seen what Taylor Swift can do. If she can pull that off, that would be incredible. Maybe. But we'll see. Might not even be her. It would be pretty incredible if the Eras Tour director remakes The Bodyguard without Taylor Swift. But we'll see. And the other thing that I learnt today was the fact that 10 Things I Hate About You, the iconic 90s teen rom-com, is being made into a musical, with music by Carly Rae Jepsen and a book by Lena Dunham and other people as well. And I'm being very rude in not saying those names, but those are the names that I recognise, which is kind of cool, I think, maybe. The music will be, like, there'll be bops, guaranteed. I think there is a lot in 10 Things I Hate About You that is obviously very theatrical. It was originally based on a play, and so there is definitely space for big dramatic moments. I mean, obviously there is a musical number in the movie already. Kat's final poem would make for a very emotional number. I think we're going to see a lot of teenage girls singing that in a few years' time at different talent shows and things. But I don't know, that's just another thing to keep my eye on. I'm not always a huge fan of movies getting made into musicals, particularly if they don't seemingly already lend themselves to that. I would be much more excited for original musicals, but hey, it could be fun. Oh my god, my partner has the slow cooker on in here making a bolognese sauce, and it is smelling so good. It is a little bit distracting. So that's some stuff that we're excited about coming up, but what have I been watching in the last little bit? So I don't really make New Year's resolutions, but one of my goals, I guess, for this year was to watch more films. And I know that sounds maybe like an odd goal, but as much as I love movies, I often find it really hard to sit down and make time for them. Like, you know, it's easier to commit to watching 5 episodes of a sitcom in a row than watching a whole last movie. And I find it hard to get to the cinema, all that jazz. So this year I really wanted to commit to both filling in my blind spots with older movies and trying to see more new releases. The last couple of weeks I've been on school holidays, being a high school teacher, and have been quite proud of how many films I've watched. I'm realising how this sounds at the moment. Hopefully you get what I mean. And one thing that I started that I've been wanting to do for a little while is do a big MCU rewatch. I have been pretty all in on this franchise since day one, and like many people, kind of fell off the train after Endgame. That felt like such an ending, and I have found it very hard to check back in, and been a little bit, not disappointed, but just, I suppose, a bit disillusioned with how that has shaken out. And I think it's funny how public perception of it has changed. People are definitely feeling the superhero burnout, the idea of pop culture and film and TV as homework, like you gotta watch all these things for this to make sense and it's all interconnected. And so I really wanted to go back, and I've been wanting to do that for a long time, because I wanted to kind of reconnect when it was all, to that time when it was all so exciting and new, and we didn't even think it was possible. Now, I am going to fact check myself. I'm sure there were people at the beginning of this video when I said that Iron Man came out in 2009 who were yelling at their phones or devices or whatever it is you're watching this on, saying, no, that was 2008. Yes, you are correct. It was 2008, which puts all of that kind of in more context of, we didn't really know how much things were going to change. So far in my MCU rewatch, I have watched basically all of the origin films plus Iron Man 2, so basically all of Phase 1 with the exception of the Avengers. What's interesting is my boyfriend is not a superhero movie guy, and so has not been particularly interested in watching it with me, which is totally fine. A few years back I did encourage him to watch Iron Man as a part of the podcast we were making at the time, and he was surprised by how much he liked it. And in this rewatch, I haven't insisted he watch anything except for Captain America, the first Avenger, because I felt like he would like it. And I'm in two minds about getting him to watch the Avengers with me. We'll see. We'll see. But I have started at the beginning, started with Iron Man, and immediately I will say, I said I watched all the origin movies. You know I skipped The Incredible Hulk, which is barely canon at this point. I have seen it. I did see it when it came out, but I did skip on this rewatch. So I went Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, the First Avenger. And when I was watching the first Iron Man, I was completely taken back to that time when it was just so flippin' fun and exciting. I had a blast. I'm having a blast watching all of them, to be honest. Even the ones that, you know, well, they're still clearly figuring it out. Because I want to just take you back to that time when they announced this project, when they announced this idea that they were going to make a team, and they were going to have all their superhero individual films, and they were going to come together. And just how crazy that sounded. Like, everyone thought, this is not going to work. This is way too ambitious. This is ridiculous. This is impossible. And I was one of those people, and people who were like in the business, film critics and people who know this stuff, was so skeptical, understandably so. And even though now it's so wild to think about, because the MCU has changed Hollywood in really interesting, some good, some not so good ways. And almost every studio has now tried to replicate what the MCU did. To go back to 2008 and remember when they first started this experiment, it's been a real blast. And particularly going back to Iron Man, which is just such a solid ass flick. And if that movie doesn't work, and I'm a big believer in this, if that movie does not work, if that movie falls on its face, the whole thing falls down. The whole thing doesn't happen. The whole thing doesn't work. And there is so much about that movie that works. And obviously the biggest thing about that movie that works is Robert Downey Jr.'s performance. And it is also bananas to think about that time where now he's one of the biggest movie stars in the world. But the fact that at that time he was at the bottom of the barrel, really. He was on the up and up from his absolute lowest point. But if you look at the Robert Downey Jr. arc, which I'm sure many people know, he was this up-and-comer cutie pie in the 80s on SNL for, I think, a season, and then gets nominated for an Oscar when he's like 23, I think he's in Chaplin, and then, you know, doing the rom-com thing, but also doing some exciting stuff, but obviously in his personal life, battling with all of these demons, and pretty quickly becomes notorious for being a talent but not being worth it because it's just too difficult because of his drug problems and his erratic behaviour. And then in the late 90s he goes to television. He goes to season 4 of Ally McBeal, which was one of the first things I saw him in. It wasn't the first thing. I was a big fan of the rom-com Only You as a kid. I watched that movie dozens of times, and I actually only recently put together the fact that him and Marissa Tomei are in the MCU as well. But I was a big fan of Ally McBeal as a tween, and God, there is so much to unpack about Robert Downey Jr.'s arc on Ally McBeal, which I'm not going to do in the depth that I could. But there is two in particular layers to it. There's the first one that this was seen as such a bad step, basically, because this was the time where movies and TV were two very separate worlds. You maybe started on TV and then moved to movies, you did not go back. Once you got to movies, you did not go back to TV. That was like admitting you were going backwards. Something bad had happened if you went back to TV. And it was very much seen as lesser than. And so for Downey Jr. to suddenly be doing TV, even if it was a hit show, it was seen as like, damn, this guy, we thought he had it, and now he doesn't. So he goes to Ally McBeal, and this was seen as like a really good thing for him. This is stability, this is a regular job, it's not as demanding, there's not as much pressure as a big Hollywood film, this will help you maybe get things together. And he is amazing on that show. He kills it. If I talk too much about his arc on that show, I will genuinely get emotional. If you're unfamiliar with it, the general premise of Ally McBeal can be summed up in the Futurama parody, single female lawyer. That's what they called it, that's basically it. And it is a romance. It is Cliff Lockhart as Ally McBeal trying to find a partner in between doing all these wacky law cases. And in season 4, she meets Downey Jr. and their relationship is so wonderfully drawn. They have so much chemistry. Downey Jr. is so good in it. Won Emmys, I'm pretty sure, but he just couldn't keep it up. He couldn't do it. And he had to be written out of the show. He doesn't even get a proper goodbye. They do write him out of the show, and his send-off is genuinely really moving, but that was not the plan. He and Ally were meant to be endgame, and pardon the phrase, but he couldn't hold on to it. And that was the real rock bottom, I think. And then there was just the thing of he couldn't get films because he couldn't be insured. He was too expensive. Every actor, before they sign into a movie, needs to get insured in case they die or something happens to them before they complete the movie, so they don't completely screw it all up. No one would insure him because of how likely it was that something would happen to him, that he would die or get into some bad situation. And he even talks about this period in his life, like, he does not remember filming Ally McBeal, supposedly. Some of the best work of his career. Doesn't remember it because of how on drugs he was. But then in the early 2000s, he starts getting things together. He goes into rehab and it seems to stick. He meets his wife, Susan, who by all accounts is a really big supporter of his. They form their own production company. He starts getting some prestige back with movies like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, like small kind of films. And then he gets Iron Man. And he got paid barely anything for that movie. Most people beyond comic book fans did not necessarily know who Iron Man was. It was seen as this obscure little thing. Is this going to work? This seems like a big experiment. This is going to fail. And it's just brilliant. It is just such a good film. His performance in it is electric. And it sets the whole thing up. And I was just watching that movie with just such a sense of excitement, because not only the film itself is so compelling, but the narrative behind it of like, we are trying this thing, and also Danny Jr. putting all of this on the line, and people putting things on the line for him of, you know, we have this idea and we're putting it on this guy's shoulders who has this history of not stepping up when he needs to, and having all these personal struggles, and he just nails it. He just flippin' nails it. And God, what a blast to watch that film again. And then I watched Iron Man 2, which I'm not going to say too much about because it's not good. I don't like it. And I was going into it really trying to like it. And there's some parts of it that I like, but it just, I mean, there is inherent difficulty always with sequels, because ideally your first film, your character has learned something and has come to a really good place, and particularly when you've got a superhero film or any film that's kind of based on the hero's journey, you have a sequel, they've kind of got to regress a little bit, and that's such a disappointing thing to see with Tony Stark, with how far he comes in the first one, and it just feels like a lot of backward steps and kind of chasing your tail a little bit, but we get there. There's some fun to be had. You know, Sam Rockwell's having a good old time. It's nice to see Samuel L. Jackson, like it always is. Elon Musk jump scare, though, in that film. If you have not seen that in a while, I was not prepared in the F1 sequence for that little cameo. Be warned about that. I feel like that needs to come with a warning now. And then I watched Thor, which is just, that's, you know, they're very much still figuring out that character. Chris Hemsworth's still figuring out himself, even just as an actor in general. But they got so much right with that film. I think so much of the casting, particularly in the supporting cast, particularly, you know, Hiddleston and Hemsworth are a little bit untested to fill it out with such, you know, strong characters as, say, Natalie Portman and Anthony Hopkins. Just does so much for it. And yeah, they're still figuring that world out and that character out, but that's still a rip-roaring good time. And then Captain America: The First Avenger, I just love. I love that film so much. I think the first first half, 2/3 is almost perfect. It starts to waver a little bit in the latter half, or the last third, where it just kind of becomes an action movie, and I'm less interested in that. But, and I think Chris Evans is, again, a deceptively good performance by Chris Evans in that film. And so much of that I love, and so much of what it sets up, but I think all those films manage to be good films on their own without relying on anything else, without having to hint at anything else. Though I will say, I finished watching Captain America and I was like, has there ever been an object more foreshadowed than his flippin' shield? Like, it comes up in Iron Man 2, and then in the film itself, he has the trash can lid, he has the door, he had, like, the taxi cab door, he then has, like, the shield that he uses when he's, like, the propaganda tool. So much build up till he gets the actual, this is the Captain America shield. Even, like, the early shot at the beginning of the film, I was like, I don't know if you could have an object more foreshadowed than this. That was a fun thing to remember. And also, when I finished watching Captain America, I was like, oh, what's the end credit scene? The end credit scene of Captain America is just a trailer for the Avengers, which is wild. So I will dive back in. I will rewatch the Avengers. I'm really excited about that. I don't know how deep I'll go. I kind of want to watch the whole Infinity Saga, not gonna lie. But who knows how long that'll take me. I've just been having a blast and a real good time in that little era where they were trying this silly thing and it was paying off even when it was 100% working. It was very cool. And then I've been watching a few other things, some first watches, some comfort rewatches, just some really good films. So, like, I've gone back and just been watching some of my favourites the last few weeks. I watched Erin Brockovich, watched Little Miss Sunshine, I watched Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which was a really nice little hopeful watch, given the state of the world at the moment. We rewatched Dumb and Dumber for some reason a few weeks ago. And I learnt my boyfriend can quote that movie almost by heart. And that was, again, just a damn good time. And then a new watch, filling in a blank for me, I watched Moonstruck for the very first time a few weeks ago. And I knew nothing about that film other than Cher won an Oscar for it. It's pretty critically acclaimed, and Nicolas Cage is supposedly young and hot in it. That was all the information that I had. And I went into that film having no clue what the vibe was going to be, what the tone was going to be. And I started it, was thinking, this is pleasant, this is really nice, Cher is wonderful in this, I love this whole look. And then you get to Nicolas Cage's first scene, and it's so intense and bonkers and funny but sad, and there's no subtext, he's just saying exactly how he's feeling. And I was like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of this movie that is very silly. And then I rewatched that scene multiple times, and then I just had so much joy for the rest of it. I just was watching the rest of it with just a big goofy smile on my face. The movie is so wonderful. It is so absurd, but it knows it is. And I was just also watching it going, damn, imagine the days that we no longer have where this movie is an Oscar player. That is so damn cool, where this screenplay and these performances, because Cher and Olympia Dukakis, who also got Oscar acclaim for that movie, I love that these really genuinely quite subtle, like Nicolas Cage is doing his thing, but Cher and Dukakis' performances are very subtle and very nuanced, and the fact that they were recognised at the time is quite extraordinary. I had a real lot of fun with that movie, and I think I'm looking forward to rewatching that. And then my cinema watch this week, as I mentioned before, is I went to see The Day the Earth Blew Up, which I've been keen to see ever since I found out I was going to get a release in the cinema. I am a huge Looney Tunes fan. I loved them as a kid, and it's been really interesting to see, because I'm a teacher, I often see how things kind of go in and out of trends and in and out of public consciousness of young people, and the Looney Tunes are definitely not significant for many of them. Some of them know them and love them, but many of them just kind of know them from Space Jam, and know them from Space Jam and New Legacy, and not much else, which is a little bit sad, and I think Warner Brothers just hasn't really known what to do with them. And The Day the Earth Blew Up is so great, because not only was it wonderful to see 2D animation, and I am a big animation nerd, I adore animation and the art of it, and I feel genuinely really sad that the art of hand-drawn 2D animation is probably going to get lost in my lifetime, because why would you do that, I suppose, nowadays? But I just love it. And The Day the Earth Blew Up is so clearly, even though it's done digitally, it's clearly harnessing all of the beauty of what hand-drawn 2D animation can do. And like the end credits were done over concept art and sketches and things that were clearly so lovingly done by hand. And lovingly is the best word I can use to describe this film. It is made with so much love and so much care for these characters. This movie is made by people who genuinely love the tunes, and apart from a small handful of lines that I found a bit questionable, a little bit too modern in some references, a few too many butt jokes, I gotta say, it's a simple story. It felt like a throwback in all the best possible ways, the ways they play with animation and visuals, and this is something that the Looney Tunes have always been so good at doing, is really harnessing, using animation to show emotion, to show action, you know, defying the laws of physics, having people squash and stretch and their faces explode and all of that kind of stuff. The Looney Tunes have always been so good at that, and this movie captures that as well. The fact that it's a really small cast. It doesn't rely on big celebrity voices. It's the current voices of these characters, and then Peter McNichol and Wayne Knight are the biggest kind of other names. Peter McNichol playing a deliciously campy, old school kind of villain, which was wonderful, and so many seemingly random throwaway jokes that then came back and paid off. It was such a good time. The only things that were not a good time were nothing to do with the movie and part of my cinema experience. One, the mother who was sitting center near the front so everyone could see her, and 10 minutes in just starts scrolling through her phone, not hiding it under her hands or putting her jacket around it or just quickly responding to a message. No, just scrolling through her phone, and that light is just so distracting. I ended up moving my seat so I wouldn't see her. I was quite far away. If I was closer, I probably would have said something. I was on the opposite side of the theatre, and it was driving me batshit. Thankfully, it did stop because her kids were getting restless. There was also two like middle school age girls who at multiple points were just wandering around the theatre, which was a little bit odd, and it did make me think about where our theatre etiquette has gone. And I know there's been plenty of think pieces and rants and threads and all that of people talking about this. I don't need to contribute to that, but it is always interesting to see it in real time, of just going, wow, that's just okay to do now. Alright, okay. Just when this mum one point got off her phone, but there was looking for something in her bag for her kids, and just put the torch on. And it's like, dude, come on, that's just not what we do here. But other than those experiences, loved it, loved going to the cinema. I gotta make a point of doing it more, and I'm so glad I got to see that film, because it's really worth seeing. And if it's still playing where you are, try and check it out, because it's a good time. And so, other than watching movies, what have I been doing with my time lately? Going to thrift stores, of course. I'm a very big advocate and proponent of physical media. I have always had a huge collection. Ever since DVDs started becoming a thing, I was collecting my favourites. I curbed it a little bit, obviously, when streaming became more prevalent, but I never did a big, I can get rid of this now because I don't need it anymore. I kept everything, was heard to say, you'll take my physical media from my cold dead hands. I lost a little bit of my collection along the way between moves and breakups and things like that, and so the last few years I have been slowly recollecting bits and pieces that I've lost along the way, and these are all secondhand, by the way. Not buying anything new, going to thrift stores and to markets and to garage sales and things like that. There is only one physical store that actually sells new DVDs anyway, but I have had to curb it a little bit the last month or two, because you may have been able to tell from my background, maybe not, I don't know. I don't currently live in a house, I live in a caravan while the house is getting built, so my storage space is very limited. So I had to curb my collecting a little tiny bit because space, but who can resist? There was a period a few months ago where I'm going, 2 or 3 times a week to check out DVD collections at thrift stores. Not doing that so much anymore, but here is my latest physical media haul. Now, a few things will be missing from the haul, and that is the Disney DVDs that I've collected the last few weeks, and that's because I'm going to make a whole separate video about my Disney DVD collection, because that's like a whole thing. In terms of what I collect, I am pretty indiscriminate in terms of just things that I like. And my Disney collection, and that includes Disney, Pixar, Star Wars, Muppets, etc. That's a very deliberate, I have a spreadsheet, hence why that's going to be a whole separate video of particular titles I'm finding. But everything else, I'm often just looking for my favourites. I want my favourites on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. But also things that I might be hard to find, or things that I know are not easily streamable. And just any other things that are maybe a bit quirky or seem a bit interesting or seem a bit rare. So this is from a collection of maybe 3 or 4 stores that I visited over the last few weeks. So first up we got A Mighty Wind. I love that this is an ex-rental, and it's also an ex-rental from a Civic Video, which was my video rental place of choice back in the day. A little while ago, my partner and I watched through all of the Christopher Guest documentaries. Or when I say all, I mean we watched Best in Show and Waiting for Government. We have not watched this one yet, and I've heard this very good things. And again, not easily streamable, these films. So was pretty stoked to find that as well. And by the way, in terms of the price, I paid $1 for most of these. The most I'll really pay for a DVD, unless it's like a big box set, is $3. Most of these were $1 to $2. Particularly, I went to a salvage store that had such a huge collection, selling them all for $1. Amazing. I almost can't believe I didn't have this. This is an amazing teen comedy about Christians. If you didn't grow up Christian, still a lot of laughs. If you did grow up in any kind of youth evangelical cultural space, oh, this is a blast. And I think one of the first times we really saw what Mandy Moore could do, who I think is a bit of a untapped treasure. She's a gem. Florida Project, a movie I've been wanting to see for ages. One of those things that I always wanted to see and then never got around to. Sean Baker's obviously just had his Oscar sweep with Anora, and this is in such good quality. This was about $2. Really looking forward to just adding that to my collection and hopefully finally watching it. Next up we got Wonder Woman 1984. Look, I loved the first Wonder Woman. Did not love this film. We got things to say about its star that are not great. But I do genuinely love the first film of this. I do really like Pedro Pascal's arc in this. It seemed like if I'm going to pay $1 for it at a thrift store, and I have the first one, you know, I should probably have the matching set. And I like the cover. But, this is another one of those big gaps in my watch history where I've never seen The Shawshank Redemption, but really intend to, and know it's important and can be hard to find, and this is exactly the kind of thing that I love to find. A really nice, good quality collector's edition of a classic that I want to make sure I have and have a physical copy of. Not on the same page, I suppose, but in some ways, yes. Another classic that is great to have a physical copy of. A movie I have not seen in a very long time. Another classic. This was $1, and I love the era where special features includes the theatrical trailer and nothing else. Come on, Spaceballs for $1. What are you gonna do? I found these all separately. Actually, 2 of them were maybe at the same place. It's kind of annoying that these are all so different and clearly from different versions of Charlie Chaplin collections. I do like a nice universal, nice, same looking set. But we've got the definitive Chaplin collection, the Chaplin collection, Chaplin the Collection Volume 1. So all from completely different attempts to put Chaplin's work together. But these are the kind of things, obviously not really streaming. A lot of them are on YouTube, but in varying degrees of quality, and particularly when I teach drama, I love showing Chaplin films, but there's also a bunch I haven't seen, and so I have Modern Times, I have City Lights, and then a bunch of his shorts on this one. The Rink, The Floor Walker, which I often show to students, 1am and The Pawn Shop, so I was pretty stoked to find those, but God, I wish they were in the same set. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. These I was very excited to find. These are from the Up documentary series, which if you're unfamiliar, oh my god. So in the 60s, they started filming these 7-year-olds from a whole bunch of different backgrounds, asked them questions about their lives, what they wanted to be, all of that. And then 7 years later went, oh, let's check in on those kids again. And let's check on them again 7 years later. And it's been going since then. And I love this series so much. Again, not readily streaming anywhere. I already have 7, 14, 21 and 35, and so to find these 2 was a real boon. Would love to find some of the later ones, but that was a real good find. And if you haven't seen this series, find it somehow, watch it, check it out. It's fascinating and wonderful and sad and devastating and hopeful and funny, and they'll never make anything like this again because a little bit unethical, but like, check it out. It's incredible. I'm quite a big Smurfs fan. If I ever see the actual show anywhere, I will definitely grab that up. This is, of course, the Smurfs and the Magic Flute, the very first feature film. Not something I've seen in a long time, but, you know, saw it, had to get it. And finally we have A Life Less Ordinary, one of Danny Boyle and Ewan McGregor's collaborations. I saw this when I was younger and really loved it. I have since learned its reputation is not great, which makes me a bit scared to revisit it, but I had a lot of fun with this when I saw it, so maybe it'll seem more ridiculous, but you know what, I don't mind. I'm very happy to have it in my collection. So that is my latest physical media haul. Don't know how much more I will be hunting in the next few months, but if I find anything good, I will be sure to share it with you. And yeah, the Disney collection, whole separate video. We'll have that coming soon. And with that, I think we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for chilling out with me, talking movies, talking books, talking weird cinema experiences. I will be back, I think, every couple of weeks, doing some similar things, playing my movie games, maybe playing some video games, maybe doing some colouring, just a bunch of things that we can chill out to. If there's anything you want to see me talk about or watch or anything like that, feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments. Otherwise, if you can just hit on that subscribe button, that would be great. I did just say hit on that, which I didn't mean to do, but you know what? I'm gonna leave it in. Thank you so much for watching, and you will hopefully see me soon. Bye!